This is a memorial for Robert Ridenour, a longtime member of St. Columba's who died recently. I first met Robert in the autumn of 1993 on a cold, rainy day. The water ministry was only a few years old. At the door to the church, I saw a grizzled, wet man with a long ponytail. He said, "I'm cold, wet, and hungry. Could you help me?" I said, "Welcome. We have lunch and showers." That meeting changed both our lives. Robert became a regular at the water ministry from then on. I learned that Robert was homeless, living rough under hedges and in doorways. He had grown up in D.C. and was a Vietnam veteran. He started service in the Army as a teenager because my country asked me to, and he became a sergeant. He was wounded in the war and received a Purple Heart. He was very appreciative for the help that he received from the water ministry. He found ways to give back. He discovered that we had a Buildings and Grounds Committee, and he participated in the ongoing major projects to improve the church buildings, painting, scraping, and generally cleaning up. He joined in the Christmas in April program to restore housing for the poorer sections of D.C. As his relationship with St. Columba's continued, he found ways to sleep near or in the church, and so he became our unofficial and then official security force, and guarding the building at night. He did scare off several potential troublemakers. Eventually, he was given the apartment in the basement of Fletcher House as his to live in. Robert also attended services on Sunday. He would stand in the back of the nave, enjoying being part of the community. Then Judy Smith asked Robert to help collect the offering. He said to me afterwards, "Who is going to give me money?" He thought his ponytail and Wrangler jeans would put people off. But Robert's past injuries and trauma caught up with him. One night he had a PTSD crisis in his apartment and broke his back. He was taken to the hospital. Margaret Gunther and Chris Schumann were there to help him. For the succeeding weeks, I watched over him as he moved from one hospital to another. Then Margaret Gunther was able to get him admitted to Christ House, a medical facility run by the Church of the Savior in Adams Morgan. As it became clear that he needed long-term rehabilitation, I started working with a social worker at the Veterans Administration. Finally, Robert was admitted to the rehabilitation unit at the VA hospital in Martinsburg, West Virginia. He stayed there for an extended period. Then the VA helped him to move into a housing authority apartment in Martinsburg. He was so happy in that apartment. He developed friendships and life became good. He was an excellent cartoonist, and Nancy Frankel gave him a wonderful drawing easel that Terry and I set up by his window in his new apartment. He became friends with two women who owned and worked in an antique shop nearby, and he hung out with them. He bought small things from the shop to decorate his apartment. The apartment truly became his nest, full of wooden knickknacks that he treasured. When we visited him and called, he was full of joy. Other Columbans also stayed close, especially Kathy Haar and Chris Schumann. A favorite story about him at that time: he was only able to walk with great difficulty. He had to use 2 crutches, but walk he did. Soon people started noticing him, and some would stop and offer him money. He accepted graciously and then found someone less fortunate to give to. That was Robert, generous, loving, and kind. A year ago, he developed liver cancer. He was accepting and at peace about it. "I have lived longer than any man in my family. I have had a good life. I am ready to die." He had many treatments at the Washington Hospital Center that were grueling. Terry and I were able to stay with him in the recovery rooms until COVID hit. We did not visit him after that, but stayed in close touch. His faithful friends to Martinsburg rallied about ensuring that he had food and supplies. He died in hospice February 1st of this year. He called me my best friend who doesn't ride a motorcycle. He was a very good friend of mine and a model for me of how to live with courage and generosity. I know he is enfolded in God's arms.